All right.
Hello, everyone. This is Mike DiQuinzio for Jam Magazine Online, and on the phone with me today is Billy Duffy of The Cult. Good morning, Billy.
Yes, good morning. How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. Must not grumble. I've had coffee, so it's all right.
Well, good to know. In Dallas today for the Rock Legends live show tonight at Gillies. Billy, can you tell me a little bit about this show?
Not really. I don't know much about it. It's really not my thing. I'm just kind of, I'm like the last to know anything about it. I roughly know the set and what we're going to do, and it's a bunch of my buddies, so I kind of do these things when I've got a bit of time. But what's great is I'm really not in charge, unlike the Cult, where I have quite a lot of responsibility.
Right.
So it's great for me. I'm just a worker bee, just doing my thing to keep the rock alive. So I'm not the guy to talk to about that.
They just wind you up and let you go, right?
Pretty much. I mean, and that's kind of how I like it, because I've been fortunate enough to have a partner and had a band for 30 plus years, which is kind of, quote unquote, my band. So when something else comes up, it's just a great opportunity for me to kind of, take a vacation from responsibility other than just trying to play well. So, it's just a bunch of guys that I play with and I enjoy, and we're just doing some covers, and, it's great for me. It keeps me, means I'm less rusty when I go out with the Cult, it keeps me sharp.
Cool. So it's just a one-off show, or are there going to be more?
I don't know. I just take them as they come. This is like a one-off thing, an event. Some guys in Dallas doing it. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be here. I have a great time doing them. I really just look at it as a good, fun opportunity to play.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to see it, so we're glad to have you. In addition to that show, you'll be back in about 3 weeks on May 16th with the Cult to promote last year's Hidden City album, which completes a trilogy that began with Born Into This in 2007. Can you tell me more about this trilogy and the story behind it?
Yes and no. I mean, that's a very, very well-read version of our press release there. Excellent work there. I don't know what they're talking about. I didn't say that. I think it's just trying to. Well, it's not my quote. I think it might have been the singer. I don't know. I think it's just trying to illustrate that the band's made 3 albums in the last 10 years, so that there's been, somewhat of a. Compared to most bands of our era, that's quite a lot of new music. And it's just trying to focus people's attentions on the fact that we still make new music, and it isn't just about going around playing the hits to pay the bills. And I think that's really what that is. It's just a question of, I would say the only way I link the records is I think they've all got a little bit better, and I think Hidden City is probably the culmination. It's the best of the 3. And we managed to get back into the habit of making records that display the scope of what we can do as songwriters a little bit. It's quite diverse, Hidden City,
Yes.
in terms of the song content, Sound and the Fury, there's a bit of everything in there, which is, I think, testimony to how we made the record. How much, we took our time making it, and had the producer involved very early on in the songwriting process so that he could let each song develop into its own particular style, rather than there's a tendency sometimes these days, especially when you're trying to make an album in 5 minutes for about $6, that everything gets a bit samey. Because it's done in the same time frame, and there's looked like the pressure of getting it done. I think just with this one, we had the scope to, and the time, the way we constructed it was to, let everything kind of find its own voice.
Okay. Well, how did your Coachella performance in 2014 inspire you to create this album?
Coachella, interesting. It was funny. We really wanted to play Coachella the year before, but they couldn't find a slot for us when we had Choice of Weapon. Because to me, Coachella's about new music. It's funny, we wanted to play Coachella and not be kind of a heritage act. and in the end, the people putting on Coachella who were, gracious enough to let us play, because there's way more bands want to play Coachella than get to play Coachella. That's the thing. I mean, they turn down more acts than they hire, because everybody wants to be associated with it for some reason. But unfortunately, we did it in a kind of a year between albums, which didn't suit our purposes. So it was a bit of a bittersweet experience. It would have made total sense for us to do it the year before, when we had a brand new album, Choice of Weapon, and it would have kind of been So the experience was good. I've been there before as a fan. I wouldn't probably go back now. I think it's very much become where rich people send their kids to, take drugs and have fun in a safe environment, which is good. It serves a purpose, but I don't think for my age, Having said that, I did get to hang out with Paul McCartney and Sir Paul McCartney again, and Brian Ferry from Roxy Music. So that was kind of, for me, quite a legendary moment. For the Cult, I think, I'll tell you one little snippet of information. When we played the first week, we played more of a traditionally paced rock set, with a bit of a down bit in the middle. The arc of a regular rock show has maybe a quiet moment in the middle, and we realized that was just pointless in Coachella. There's so much going on. We actually made the set shorter. The second week, we took out 2 songs, played everything kind of up tempo, never took a break in the drums. We always had something going on, and it seemed to just make more sense. So I think in essence, the Cult are still not too old to adapt their music to the environment. We didn't change any songs. We just reduced what we did, kind of rejigged it, and I think it fitted the atmosphere better.
Cool. Well, since you said that this album is not really a trilogy in the traditional sense, so you wouldn't go so far as to say that Hidden City is a concept album by any means, would you?
Well, I mean, I don't, hey, disclaimer here, I don't write the lyrics. It is the band I'm in. I'm the music, I'm engine room, I'm like making sure everything runs smooth, and, I'm not the lyrics, I'm not all... So, I'm not the guy to super comment. I mean, Ian has his view on things, and it would just do Ian a disservice if I horribly misquoted him, or, there is some thought and feeling behind it, but with every Cult album, we basically just kind of write and try and explore where we're at in terms of, mentally, physically. That's why all our records tend to sound a bit different. I think that's a fair comment. Never mind these 3. They all definitely have, over the last 30 years, have got their own personality, Cult records. And that's just because we tend to reflect our environment, what's going on in the world, but not in an overt way, not in a soapboxy way, but I just think we let it come into what we're doing. Otherwise, what's the point? I mean, why make the Electric album 10 times? I mean, what's the point? I mean, I couldn't anyway. You can't be... people ask me, why don't you make another record like Electric? I said, well, I'd have to go back in a time capsule and be a 25-year-old guy in New York drinking and partying and living kind of a pirate lifestyle with no responsibilities, and then it would be authentic. But I'm not that guy, so I can't imagine trying to make a record like that as an adult male. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's the authenticity, and that's the artists who we admire. I mean, Ian's a massive David Bowie fan, and you can't keep making the same record. I mean, I know certain bands have done, but for the Cult, we just do the best we can. To be authentic and real, and I think the fans appreciate that.
Oh, definitely. And as an old school fan, and I mean this as a total compliment, you're not trying to compare you to past work, but this album to me has a lot of the spirit of Electric with the production value of, say, Sonic Temple, like a good blend of your best period there, I would think.
Right. Well, thank you. Again, like I said in my answer, long-winded answer to the trilogy quote, it really was that we definitely took a methodology of creating this album where we did lots of sessions that were short with Bob Rock of getting the songs together over a period of time. And so once we actually finally got to record the record, each individual song had had time to kind of germinate and become its own thing. Then we could really just concentrate on... There's less time spent finishing the writing of a song, because, you know, any idiot in the music business knows you don't want to be writing songs in a studio, because that's expensive and retarded to do it that way. You want your songs written, and then when you're in the thing, you can make them better. But of course, life being what it is, there's many times you end up in a recording studio trying to write songs because you haven't finished them or got them ready in time. And that's where the kind of compromise comes. You know, well, you've got to have the album finished because the release date is here. And then, you know, even in this day and age where none of that really matters, it kind of does matter.
Right.
You know, I mean, we've missed deadlines by a month, and then our record label had our album and a Marilyn Manson album to promote at the same time, and that really didn't make them happy because they had to split their resources, and I don't think it did us any good. But we did that because we just couldn't get our record finished. And that's just like a little insider thing that goes on where the label... They had their resources set to release a cult album at this moment, and then suddenly the cult album finished, and they're like, oh, dear, you know? So then, and it's just kind of how it is these days, you know?
Yeah.
Not a lot of money, you know, making music, making records is a bit of a fool's errand. It's almost like make music to give it away for free and then make a really terrible video for no money. That people look at for free, which is really what it's all about, through speakers that are really tiny and sound terrible. And you listen to it through devices with a fruit on the front that's 70% less sonically good than it could be.
Well,
you know, I mean, that's just how it is, man. That's the world we live in, you know. But I'll take the convenience, you know.
Well, I completely agree with you. I like hearing my stuff on, you know, nice headphones and nice speakers and in the car. You know, it's not meant to be heard on an iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like, I mean, you know, we can do, you know, if you want to enjoy old, go and get some vinyl and sit back and, you know, enjoy it. But it's funny.
Well, in the press release that I received that said the thing about the trilogy and stuff, it really made it seem like you and Ian, were very in sync and had a clear idea of what you wanted to create with Hidden City. So my question about that is, when you have such a clear, you know, idea and you're both in the same wave there, do you establish the music first, or does he have a lyrical idea that you kind of stem from, or how does that process work for you guys?
It's generally music first, and I mean I've written, you know, Ian has come up and still continues to come up with some amazing musical bits. I think that would be fair comment. I mean, he's come up with, like on Hidden City, the guitar chord at the beginning of a song called Deeply Ordered Chaos, which is quite a popular tune. We do that live a lot. That was his chord. I was like, whoa, what's that? You know, and over the years, Ian will come up with these little bits that I think the art of my partnership with him was noting very early on that while he might not come up with a complete song, he has an amazing musical idea because he's not formally trained. But I heard, you know, there was a very early song of ours called Spirit Walker, which was the early fans know about it. It was like kind of 84, and it was a hit in England in the indie world, and it was a big deal for us at the time. And that was Ian's idea. I fleshed it out and made it a song and added other bits and did the whole kind of, you know, construction. But it was Ian's initial idea, a real simple thing. I heard and went, what's that you're playing? He picked up a bass. That kind of thing is useful in a partnership. And we just try and be open. You know, we didn't know what it was going to be like. We just wanted it to be as diverse as possible.
Right.
We wanted, one of the things I said was I felt on Choice of Weapon, I was rushed with the guitar parts. I was basically had a gun to my head to finish all the guitar work because the songs weren't written in time. You can't put guitars on a record. You can't finish guitar playing until you know what the vocals are because you put the guitar where the vocals go. So I can do 80% of my guitar work, but then all of kind of the icing on the cake, I need the vocals, and if there's no vocals, I can't play. And then so once you get a vocal, if there's no time, it's like, right, okay, now do a guitar solo, play all those parts, and you've got about 20 minutes. So that can happen sometimes. It's kind of funny. But on Hidden City, I had more time, and I, you know, I had a lot of fun with Bob Rock, messing around with the guitar.
Cool. Well, speaking of the song Deeply Ordered Chaos, the last time you were in Dallas, since the release of Hidden City anyway, was as a special
Yeah.
And the only song you played from Hidden City in that set was Deeply Ordered Chaos. So why did you choose that song to represent the new album?
Just because it's so different than everything else we do, and we just wanted it as a kind of counterpoint in the middle of the show. And, you know, in that kind of situation, playing such an enormous stage, and, you know, it was just Guns N' Roses night, really, but it was a great event to be part of, and we just thought, you know, it's good to let people know you've got one new song, and that one's just very different, you know?
Yes.
That was all. It kind of stood out, you know. And it's also not too long. It seems like it's a long song, but it really isn't that long. So we had a short, you know, we played 45 minutes. You know, one new song's enough to let people know, hey, we're the Cult. We've still got our hair. None of us are too fat. We can still rock pretty good. And, you know, and we have a new album, and, you know, you don't want to be hitting people at a Cult gig. That's a different conversation. When we're there, back in Dallas in May on the 16th at the House of Blues, yet again, world record, we will no doubt play quite a few more from Hidden City.
Right. Well, you sounded great at the opening for Guns N' Roses. You know, just so you know, that was a great set. Had a lot of fun with you guys. And it was good to see you again.
No, thank you. No, thank you. No, we did too, man. It wasn't like, it was a great experience, you know. I think it's a very compatible bill. It's the bill that most people wanted to see, and we, you know, it's not the simplest thing in the world to make those situations work out, but we did as many as we could, and I'm so glad we got to do it in Dallas, you know. It was good fun and quite an experience playing in that stadium, you know.
Yeah, and I'm glad we got you too, because the other choice was Skrillex, I think, and we were so thankful to have the Cult.
Yeah, I think they went with Skrillex in Houston for some reason, but yeah, you know, it's their deal, man, and as you know, we go back with Guns N' Roses a long way, and you know, we're still friends 30 years later from. So, you know, and it is what it is, you know, and I'm happy to play with them. I respect them as musicians and as a thing. And they're keeping the rock alive, you know what I mean? So I'm happy to be, you know, if your friend invites you to some sort of anniversary party, you know, we show up when invited.
Yeah, well, we were happy that you were part of it too. It was a great night for everyone. So, as of now, since you've been playing the songs from Hidden City for a while, I'm sure, what are your favorites to play live?
I like Deeply Ordered Chaos, actually. It's quite a discipline to play that slow, and, you know, the Cult's generally an upbeat, kind of swingy rock band, but it's nice to have a song that is is short, but makes a statement of a different kind. It's kind of like a brooding kind of tune, you know. So I enjoy that one, actually. Then it has that little fast bit at the end, so we get to kind of, you know. But I can't overestimate the fact that as a musician, sometimes you try and write these other songs, and then you turn around and you're going, why is that song 6.5 minutes long? You know, and you're like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I didn't want it to be 6.5 minutes long. It just ended up being that way. You know, you don't sit down and think, you know, we're not writing Dark Side of the Moon here. This isn't like Inagada Devita. Why is this? So it's nice to be able to get it said in some brevity.
Yeah, but it is a great song. I do agree with you on that.
And the Goat's good. The Goat's good because that is literally a tongue. It's just a straight up rock and roll, 3 chord, kind kind of swagger, really. I mean, it's kind of like our fight song. We wrote that. We were going through a phase of watching the UFC in the studio. Ian is really into his martial arts, and he turned me on to the UFC, and I wasn't really digging it until I saw Conor McGregor, who I swear stole my haircut. And being of Irish descent, I sort of related to his whole thing, you know. And I just, we had this riff that was sitting around, and I never thought anything would come of it because it's just kind of straight up rock. And Ian kind of got inspired and by kind of Muhammad Ali and Conor McGregor and that kind of whole kind of like boastful but in a show business kind of way. And that's the thing, you know, I guess half the thing when you're a singer, which I'm not, is to find lyrics that actually you feel you can sing with authenticity over the music. Because the music generally comes first with the cult. You asked me that question, I didn't really specifically answer it. Generally, it's music first with the cult. Sometimes there's a few songs like Sound and the Fury is very much an Ian thing. It's mostly piano. There's a little bit of guitar and bass on it there, but barely minimal. But in general, 90% of the cult stuff comes music first, and then Ian just has lyrics and ideas. Most singers just write stuff down 24/7. The question is marrying some lyrics and words to music and it working together. And that's where the art comes into it, I suppose, you know.
Right.
You know, anybody can write poetry or bad poetry, and anybody can write music, but the marriage of the two together to create something that's greater than the sum of the parts is the artistry in songwriting in any musical genre, you know.
Right. Well, I know you said earlier that you don't really, you know, you have to pick a time cap.
Sorry, I need to wrap it up. Sorry.
Okay, well, this is the last question.
Perfect.
Okay. Obviously, this year is a big year because the Electric album turns 30 years old. Do you have any plans to commemorate this anniversary?
An honest answer to that is no. I haven't even had a conversation about that. That's how the cult works. We don't really operate on... We might be working on a different calendar. I need to actually talk to Ian about what calendar he's working on, because we don't ever commemorate anything at the appropriate year. In fact, I almost think we go out of our way not to do that. It's just, we never, you know, we never would, any nice, normal 20, 25, 30-year anniversary, we'll go out on the 28th year or the 27th year. I mean, I think you just have to think of the cult working on some kind of more celestial plane. And our calendar is like, does it feel right? You know, when the moon has risen over the mountain for 37 times, I will meet you by the lake, and that is when we'll celebrate the album. Well, you know, we just don't do the Roman Greco calendar very well.
Well, that's pretty rock and roll, so I'll take that as an answer. So, Hidden City is out now on Amazon, iTunes, and anywhere you can get music. You'll be here, House of Blues, Dallas, May 16th with the Cult. The tour kicks off on May 2nd, next week, right? In Baltimore?
Yeah, we're in Baltimore. We're starting off in Baltimore, and then we just a quick warm-up show in Baltimore, and we haven't been there for a few years, and then we're into a fairly big gig in Carolinas, like a festival. So we're just getting the rust off, because we've been down for 5 months. We haven't done a cult gig in 5 or 6 months, so hence why I go out and do these other little fun shows on the side, because I like to keep my hand in. You know, I just get rusty. You know,
right.
You're playing in your house and in your bedroom. It's not the same thing at all.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? So, no. So I like to keep playing. So we're back out again. It's going to be a fun summer, and we're going to be working all the rest of the year. So I'm excited. Going to Europe, South America. But as usual, Texas, we're always, you know, as you well know, we're in Texas a lot. Texas and the Cult have a very nice mutual respect for each other. So we're doing 5 gigs in Texas this month, maybe 4 or 5 shows.
Oh, wow. It's a big place.
Yeah, we're around, man. We're around Corpus, Beaumont, San Antonio, maybe, Houston. I think, we're around.
Cool. Well, your website is great, BillyDuffy.com. It's an excellent website for an individual band member, probably the best I've seen. And do you have a Twitter account you'd like to pop in there?
Well, I did. Well, just go to BillyDuffy.com. I can't take much credit for that. I just put the input and tell my mate Mick, who I have a guy in England who I've known for 30 years. I'll tell you a funny story about that quickly. Mick, who runs my website in England, he lives in Manchester, where I'm from, and he auditioned for The Cult in 1983 on bass and didn't get the gig. But he subsequently became a friend of mine and has taken pictures and been around on and off The Cult for 30 years. So the website's done with a little authenticity. But yeah, thank you. I like it. It's a good fun thing to do, and I like to think it's a cool site. It's very informative, and
it really is. Really. Well, Billy, thank you for taking the time to speak with me. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you tonight at Rock Legends Live, and then in 3 weeks for The Cult.
Yeah. Now, I might point out that I personally don't feel like a rock legend. Billy Gibbons is a rock legend. Jimmy Page is a rock legend. I'm a guy from England that plays guitar, you know what I mean?
You play pretty bad.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call myself. I'm a bit. I think I'm still just a bit young at heart for legend status, but I'm showing up anyway.
How about Notorious?
Yeah, but I think you know where I'm coming from. You could probably think of a better name for me.
I do.
We're like Rock Scallywags. It should be Rock Scallywags Live.
Next year.
Yeah, next year we'll do the Rock Scallywag tour. All right, mate. Nice talking to you. Bye-bye.
Billy, thank you.
Hello, this is Billy Duffy from The Cult, and you heard it on Jam.